Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we'll be using MQL5 to calculate currency strength, as can be seen on the screen. So the idea here is to find a way to rank the 8 major currency pairs from strongest to weakest in a given period, using a self-defined point system. Now there are many different ways to go about calculating currency strength, and this just happens to be the method that I use. Step 1. We use the formula bar movement is equal to close price minus open price divided by the high minus the low, and we do that for each bar in the specified period. Step 2. We sum up all these movements and get a total. And lastly, step 3. We define our own point system and rank them from the strongest to the weakest. Without further ado, let's get into it. In MetaTrader, we open up the MetaQuotes editor by clicking the button or pressing F4. Click on New and generate an Expert Advisor template. Press Next and we'll call it Currency Strength EA. Then just skip over the other options. We'll start by erasing everything above the onInit function. From there, we'll define our first function and call it getPip_progression. The function takes in an array of strings containing the names of the currency pairs, an array of doubles that will store the values for each currency pair, an integer which specifies the number of bars we want to use, and an enum timeframe which specifies the time frame we want to work with. In here, we'll define an array of doubles with a length of 7 and initialize it with zeros. Now the reason we're using a length of 7 is because we're using a total of 8 currencies, meaning each currency has 7 partners and therefore can make 7 pairs. We then make use of a nested for loop with the outer loop running through the array of currency pairs and the inner loop running through the bar positions. Using the formula discussed earlier, we sum up all the bar movements of the currency pair for the specified period. Now once that's done, we copy over the values to the array that was passed by reference. Now we can compile the code to see if we have any errors. And indeed we do. The size variable should be called period. After recompiling, we see that we're good to go. We can then define a second function that returns a double. We'll call it getTotalProgression. Now this function gives us a sense of how each currency is performing within its pairs. Pairs in which the currency is a base currency are added to the total, and pairs in which the currency is a quote currency are subtracted from the total. The function takes in an array of doubles containing the bar movements from the previous function. Secondly, it takes in a parallel array of strings containing the names of the currency pairs. And lastly, a string corresponding to the name of the currency. We define a double to hold the values of the sum and initialize it to 0. Next, we make use of a for loop to run through the currency pairs. We then make use of the string compare function to compare the name of the currency passed to that of the base currency. If true, we add the value of the bar movement to the total sum. Otherwise, if the currency is a quote currency, then we subtract its value from the total. Next, we define our own point system. We do this by assigning a value to the total change depending on the interval it falls into. In this example, we use an interval of 2 ranging from -22 all the way to +24. And we increase the point by 1 as we progress. Once that's done, the next step is to define the variables that will hold the names and values of each cross-currency pair. Start with an array of strings holding the cross-currency pairs of the Australian dollar. Followed by an array of doubles that will hold the pip progressions of each cross-currency pair. And lastly, a double that will hold the sum of the progressions. We'll do the same for the remaining 7 currencies. Once that's done, we can now go into our onTick function and begin to make the function calls. We'll start by getting the values for the Australian dollar. In the getPip progression function, we pass in the names of the Australian dollar cross-currency pairs, the pip progression array, a period of 20, and we'll work with the hourly time frame. We then get the total progression by calling the getTotalProgression function. We pass in the pip progression obtained above, the names of the cross-currency pairs, and the name of the currency. We then do the same for the remaining currencies. When that's done, we compile our code to check for errors. I forgot to return the total change value in the getTotalProgression function. Adding that and recompiling the code fixes the error. To help us order the currencies, let's add 2 more arrays. One to store the currency string, and the second one to hold the names of the currencies. We'll manually assign the names and the strings to the arrays. A very important thing to note is the 2 arrays have to be parallel, meaning the index at which you find the name of a currency in the currency names array has to correspond with the index at which you find its corresponding strength in the currency strength array. Finally, we'll add a comment that's gonna help us see these values. Let's compile the code and test it. We get an error, and that's because the single quotes should be double quotes. Let's recompile and try again. We look for the currency strength EA and add it to the chart. It gives us no output, and upon examining the exports tab, we see that there is an error. This error is caused by a typo in the name of the GBP-JPY currency pair. Let's fix that, recompile and try again. This time we do get an output, but not the desired one. And that's because the double of the currency names array should be a string. Upon compiling and trying again, we see an output and it looks fairly good. However, the currencies are not in order, so let's try and fix that. We'll define a function and call it order currencies that will take in the currency strength and the names of the currencies. Now all we need is any simple sorting algorithm. Now we'll call the order currencies function right before inserting the comment. We compile that and have a look at the charts. Everything looks great. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel for more content like this.